Good morning and welcome to the State Energy Planning Board meeting. I'm Doreen Harris, President and CEO of NYSERDA and Chair of the State Energy Planning Board. As a reminder, today's meeting is open to the public to observe both here in Albany in person as well as on our live stream. I want to thank everyone who came out today for this meeting and for those who tuned in online. Before turning to our agenda, I'd like to welcome the members of the State Energy Planning Board and their designees. I ask that each board member or delegate introduce themselves. Going around the table, please share your name, title, and agency.
Good morning. Rory Christian, Chair of the Public Service Commission, CEO of the Department of Public Service.
Good morning. Richard Ball, Commissioner, New York State Department of Agriculture and Markets.
Good morning. Rich Dewey, President and CEO of the New York Independent System Operator.
Morning, David Whipple, Senior Director, Empire State Development, on behalf of Commissioner Hope Knight.
I am Chris White, the Vice Chancellor for Workforce Development and Upward Mobility from SUNY, representing Chancellor John King.
I don't have an arrow that tells me how to turn it on. Amanda Lefton, the Commissioner of the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation.
Secretary Mosley, New York Department of State.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jim McDonald, Commissioner, New York State Department of Health. Hi, I'm Dr. Jim McDonald, Commissioner, New York State Department of Health.
It's red is on. Hi, I'm Assemblymember Dee Dee Barrett, Chair of the Assembly Energy Committee and representing Speaker Carl Hastie here on this panel. Thank you.
Good morning, Terrence O'Leary, Executive Deputy Commissioner, here on behalf of Commissioner Jackie Bray, Division of Homeland Security and Emergency Services.
Thank you all. For the record, I note we have a quorum for today's meeting. I know we'll be joined by other members shortly. So I'll now turn to today's business. Please note for the record that an agenda was shared with board members on Friday, December 5th, and posted in the Energy Plan website for the public to review on Monday, December 8th. Our agenda for today will include reviewing and approving the minutes of the December 1st, 2025 board meeting, voting on a resolution to adopt the State Energy Plan, and any other business that may come before the board. We can move to the first item on the agenda today, to accept the meeting minutes of the State Energy Planning Board meeting held on December 1st, 2025. Are there any comments on the minutes? Hearing none, I'll make a motion to accept the minutes into the record and we'll post them on the website. Do I have a second?
Second.
The minutes are accepted into the record. Next slide. So today's meeting is a momentous one for our energy planning process. The board members are in a place where we can consider and act on a 2025 state energy plan. Over the last 15 months, the state energy plan has been an opportunity to take stock of our progress, calibrate the state's energy projections, and hone our vision of New York's energy future. It has also been an opportunity for each of us to understand how multidisciplinary this planning process is and how fundamental energy is in supporting how government delivers its public service, how the economy grows and thrives, and impacts every New Yorker's quality of life. All of these impacts are realized from energy policy decisions and directions. And I would say the plan is coming at a particularly active time for the energy sector. As we have noted, and certainly has been reflected in our analysis, for the first time in perhaps decades, we are seeing the potential for significant growth in electricity demand, driven by both an expanding economy, as well as our environmental policies seeking the efficiencies and emission benefits that come from electrification. We are also at the cusp of new technology readiness. All technologies which have the promise of meeting our economic and environmental needs, including systems that can make our grid more flexible, are going to need to be considered as we make resource decisions. We have also seen notable changes in federal policy that have foundational impacts on energy strategies that New York can rationally pursue. And so throughout the development process, the board has needed to react in real time to plan for a policy context that has been changing in a very dynamic manner. In the last 4 months alone, we have delivered significant ground in terms of updating our draft plan to incorporate thousands of public comments, to account for significant federal policy changes, and to include new and evolving clean energy technologies at the same time. And throughout the development of the plan, the board has kept as its North Star the guiding principle that this plan should be designed to provide pragmatic guidance and recognition of the reality of the times we are living in, while continuing momentum in building the state's clean energy economy. The plan we will vote on today is a product of substantial effort and coordination. It represents the work conducted by dozens of state energy staff and technical experts. A formal thank you is coming to each of you. Informed by stakeholders and public commenters, and ultimately shaped by members of this board. So I would like to use today's meeting in part to invite the board to share their reflections on the plan. But first, I will turn, as the case may be, over to Carl Maas, NYSERDA's Senior Vice President for Policy Analysis and Research, to walk us through the guiding planning goals of the plan and key next steps. Carl.
Thank you, Chair Harris. And it's a pleasure to be with all of you again. I'd first like to reflect on two themes I introduced at the start of the process. This plan represents a synthesis and integration of ongoing energy-related public and private activities occurring across the state. Our staff have expertly developed a clear picture of the energy system we have today, explored future opportunities and challenges, drafted hundreds of recommendations to guide energy-related decision-making, and have demonstrated that New York is prepared to meet energy needs. The plan also makes it clear that New York is not an island. Continuing to make progress on our goals depends in part on national markets, actions from other states, as well as federal policy. So now turning to the plan itself, we have remained committed to the 5 overarching goals that this board introduced to the public in July. As you see on this slide, the first goal of the plan is to ensure a reliable, resilient, and clean energy system. A reliable and resilient energy system is critical to the well-being of every New Yorker. It serves as the backbone of public safety, quality of life, and economic prosperity. Maintaining a diverse mix of both supply resources and infrastructure is key to ensuring reliability and resiliency. This diversity will allow us to minimize the potential impacts of supply disruptions and price fluctuations in any given energy market. It will also allow us to remain flexible and prepared for multiple possible energy futures. Our plan speaks to the importance of resource diversity in several ways. First, by underscoring New York's commitments to invest in renewables, energy storage, advanced nuclear, and the transmission and distribution system upgrades needed to support our growing demand for electricity. Second, the plan underscores the importance of energy efficiency. The plan speaks to the critical role of demand-side management and load flexibility as resources that will lower costs and enhance grid reliability. And finally, the plan acknowledged that all major fuels will continue to provide meaningful volumes of energy throughout the planning period. As clean energy resources ramp up over time, the state will maintain safe and reliable provision of natural gas and petroleum fuels. The plan also highlights the substantial investment will be needed to modernize aging infrastructure, boost resilience, and support economic development. More than 85% of the energy-related investments projected in the plan are driven by the broad provision of energy service, regardless of which energy pathway we pursue. Strategic energy planning and a focus on cost effectiveness will allow the state to manage these needed system investments and help safeguard affordability. In support of meeting these goals, the plan speaks to the importance of integrating advanced technologies, including those that enable load flexibility, integrated planning of the electric and gas systems, and continuing multi-agency energy security and emergency management efforts. Next slide, please. Our second planning goal is the provision of affordable energy, as well as equitable access to energy efficiency and clean energy options. Here, the plan emphasizes how increasing energy efficiency and clean energy options are affordability strategies in and of themselves. And the state will continue to work to reduce upfront costs and other barriers to help alleviate energy insecurity and energy burdens. I note that federal policy and financial support have been critical to energy affordability. As we saw with the delay of heating assistance payments last month, we will need to continue to remain flexible when New Yorkers are faced with affordability challenges. Next slide, please. This plan also highlights access to reliable and affordable energy as essential to supporting economic growth and maintaining competitiveness. Energy policy that supports economic development leads to a variety of benefits for the state, including job creation, added tax base, and other positive impacts that will follow from new regional investments. The state is currently seeing interest from new and growing industries with large energy needs. When considering siting plants, energy-intensive industries look for access to reliable and affordable energy. As such, New York can promote economic development by meeting the needs of large energy users and investing in infrastructure and programs that can attract new industry, including clean energy leaders. These investments would build on the features that already make New York competitive, including a skilled and educated workforce, a thriving research and innovation network, access to capital, and transportation infrastructure. Another important dimension of the plan's economic development strategy is the emphasis on workforce development. The state's workforce programs will continue to play an important role in training and retraining workers in the growing clean energy industry. Pairing these programs with continued commitment to strong labor standards will ensure that these jobs remain good quality jobs. Next slide, please. So our fourth goal is innovation. The advancement of energy innovation is a critical tool to enable New York's energy transition. Innovation will help reduce the cost of and increase the diversity of energy technologies and services, whether by investing in emerging technologies in New York or by bringing existing technologies from outside the state to our markets. State support for energy innovation can help catalyze the development and commercialization of critical technologies both within New York and beyond. New York is already one of the country's leading clean energy innovation hubs. Our innovation ecosystem is made up of a robust network of partnerships across the state, including research institutions, the private sector, banking, and many more. SUNY plays a pivotal role in leading this innovation ecosystem and is a nationally recognized leader in clean energy research and innovation, with among the largest university-owned clean energy patent portfolios in the country. The plan highlights the foundational role that fostering our innovation system plays in advancing a clean energy transition and delivering affordable energy. And fifth, the plan's final overarching goal is to advance decarbonization and continue to grow the clean energy economy. The plan lays out an ambitious and achievable pace for the energy transition over the next 15 years. Achieving this level of ambition will require effective implementation of the policies New York State already has enacted, as well as additional actions that are outlined in this plan. Continued progress toward decarbonization and a clean energy economy requires a sustainable financial footing, further policy actions, and new technologies. As the state evaluates further action, it will need to weigh costs and benefits informed by robust public input to understand whether these actions best serve New York. Next slide. So those were the 5 goals that we've been working on for these 15 months. Now we turn to what comes next for the energy planning process. 2 years after approval of a state energy plan, the board is required to produce a biennial report on the implementation of the plan. This biennial report will serve as an opportunity to take stock of the state's implementation of the policies, programs, and other recommendations in the plan. To the extent there are obstacles to implementation, this will also serve as an opportunity to recommend modifications. Ahead of our biennial update, we will rerun the Energy Pathways analysis. Doing so will provide the board with new insights based on evolving market conditions, new federal policies, and consumer preferences. Next slide. This slide highlights some of the topics identified by the board and described in the plan that will be further developed ahead of the biennial update. These topics include research to support wholesale electricity markets, design and strategies to bolster resource adequacy, research on household energy affordability to better inform programs and policies that seek to lower energy bills. This includes attention to both homeowners and renters, and also the development of more granular energy affordability data. Third, refinement of strategies to ensure placement in high-quality jobs backed by strong safety nets for the energy workforce. And fourth, we will continue to develop strategic approaches in the transportation sector to maintain the state's momentum on electric vehicles, active transportation, smart growth, and clean non-road transportation, including the launch of a statewide port study. With that, I look forward to working with members of the board to drive this work forward. And I would like to thank the 100+ state agency staff who work for all of you that have made this plan possible. Chair Harris, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Carl, for that synthesis and also a reminder regarding the next steps in our energy planning process. Seems we'll be reconvening before we know it. I'll soon turn to the board members to ask if they have specific thoughts to share on the energy plan that we are voting on today, or if they have any general statements about the plan. But I do want to start first noting that, of course, this plan has been developed at the direction of Governor Hochul, and clearly her leadership with respect to the policies of our state are those that are very much reflected in this plan. And so as chair of the Energy Planning Board, I did want to start today's discussion by first noting that Governor Hochul has actually sent a letter that will be incorporated into our energy plan. The full letter will be included in the plan itself, but I did want to highlight some excerpts from the letter, again, from Governor Hochul. So reading from her letter, as governor, my responsibility is simple to say, but difficult to deliver. Keep the lights on, keep energy bills within reach, and keep our promise of a cleaner, healthier future for our children. Reliability, affordability, and sustainability guide every energy decision I make. So let me start with what too often gets lost. New York is already a national clean energy leader. Our grid is among the cleanest in the country. We built America's first utility scale offshore wind project. We lead the nation in community solar. We've modernized transmission lines that were first put up in the 1940s. And our nuclear fleet continues to provide zero emission power around the clock. Through the $1 billion Sustainable Future Program, the $4.2 billion Clean Water, Clean Air, and Green Jobs Environmental Bond Act, and record investments in efficiency and clean buildings, we're lowering bills, cutting pollution, and creating tens of thousands of good-paying jobs. Our actions will provide cleaner air and water and more livable communities across the state. In fact, if you track New York State's emission reduction progress using the globally utilized accounting standard that is also the norm in 48 other states, we're close to reducing our greenhouse gas emissions by nearly 40% by 2030, despite federal setbacks. So we're not just claiming that clean energy can work, we're showing the country that it already does. And being a leader means moving forward with clear eyes and common sense. The state energy plan is a realistic assessment of where we are and a roadmap for where we need to go. It is frank about the challenges ahead and confident in what New York can accomplish. The long-term answer to affordability is not scarcity. It's building more in-state power, more clean generation, more transmission, more storage, more firm zero-emission resources like nuclear to anchor reliability as demand grows. And so this plan embraces a much-needed all-of-the-above strategy. It presents a guidepost for greater state energy independence, and above all, this plan keeps people at the center, lowering energy burdens, improving housing, strengthening communities, and making sure clean energy choices are within reach, and ensuring a just transition for workers who have powered New York for generations. So that is the words of Governor Hochul, more included in the final plan, but I do want to specifically thank her for her leadership in helping us to guide this process over the last year plus. Now, more personally, I would like to specifically expand on Carl's presentation of the 5 energy plan goals. I see that each of the members around this table will find in their own daily work how these goals can resonate with the services they provide or the policies that they need to put into motion. And as I stated earlier, this plan is truly multidisciplinary, and we can all individually advance our specified missions as well as advance the mutually beneficial outcomes that will come from collaboration and advancement of the energy plan goals. I myself have been most impressed with the conclusion of this plan that, in order to keep our energy system reliable and resilient, it is imperative that we consider the full spectrum of energy resources that contribute to the increasing levels of energy demand over the planning period. And so even as there are transitions to zero-emitting solutions that we will need to continue to lead with partners throughout the country and the globe, we will similarly need to pay attention to the systems we will continue to rely on for our basic energy needs and help grow our economy. And that attention must also keep a close eye on energy affordability. We must seek known and new strategies to meet the energy needs of New York's residents and businesses without burdening their finances. And so the energy plan notes that these strategies will include new approaches to meeting these needs, whether through new applications of advanced technologies for on-site energy use, or through systems and market approaches that facilitate more flexible demand options. Or perhaps even if it is just through tried and true energy efficiency that helps to both control residential customer costs as well as improve their quality of life. And for the first time in decades, we'll be planning for significant and sustained economic growth. And our energy plan is positioned to foster economic development and the energy resources needed for both new and expanding business opportunities. Some of the development will be supported by innovation, and we must create the appropriate environment to apply emerging energy technologies, whether long-duration energy storage or advanced nuclear or renewable fuels, to the use cases that best serve the energy system generally, but also where it may provide value to customers. And certainly, all of this activity comes with continued progress on decarbonization and an appreciation that strategies advanced through this energy plan can maintain the momentum for changed markets and energy systems that will be necessary to advance climate policy goals. Overall, this plan articulates the vision for an energy system in New York that is reliable and resilient. And to that end, I want to be sure that the board recalls its previous action to advance our supplemental study on the state's electric transmission and distribution system, which reinforced the criticality of system reliability and made clear that we need to be vigilant to make sure that new resource additions keep pace with load growth and resource retirements in the coming years. The study also highlighted the need to invest in upgrading aging infrastructure across our electric transmission and distribution system. And while most of these investments are needed to modernize the system, the plan also recommends that future investments should incorporate technological advancements that would facilitate an increasingly diverse mix of generating resources. Certainly, the implementation of the plan will require state agency coordination and a commitment to working with our colleagues at all levels of government, our community partners, and private sector entities. And as Carl touched on, New York is not alone in our efforts to develop an energy plan that remains ambitious in an evolving environment. Making progress on these objectives depends on national markets, actions from other states, as well as federal policy and international commitment and action. And so we both can benefit from and are impacted by these forces. Our leadership can help shape these forces by building new markets and driving technology and business innovation, but we also must reflect on and adapt to the transformation that is happening around us. And so an abundant, reliable, affordable, clean energy system is one that will support widespread prosperity for our state, and it is our responsibility to lead New York into that future using the framework that this plan sets forth. And so speaking for the team at NYSERDA, we remain steadfast in our mission to help catalyze New York's clean energy transition and a vision for clean energy that supports a healthier and thriving future for New Yorkers. And so with that, and with those reflections, I'd like to call on my fellow board members in turn to share their reflections on the state energy plan. I'd like to turn first to my right to Commissioner Amanda Lefton. Commissioner.
Thank you, Chair Harris, for those wonderful remarks. First, I'd like to wish a congratulations to you, Chair, as well as the rest of the State Energy Planning Board for really what is a comprehensive and a well-done state energy plan. And importantly, as we know, it would not have happened without the 100 of team members across the state agency family and otherwise contributing to this. So just thank you to everyone that worked so hard to move this forward and to do so, not only expeditiously, but thoughtfully. I also want to thank Governor Hochul for her continued leadership in ensuring that as we meet really our growing energy demands in the state of New York, we're doing so with the appropriate lens to really deliver for New York, to deliver for, of course, New Yorkers and importantly, our environment. And as we think about what this plan represents, this really represents, not only, our critical need to keep the lights on, as the governor often says, but to do so in a way that protects public health and the environment, and a continued focus on clean energy and that diversification that's really necessary to meet our future energy needs, but also to ensure that we are ratcheting down emissions, that we're transitioning to a clean energy future, and importantly, seeing those really critical environmental and public health benefits. So this plan represents really an enormous body of work to ensure that we are meeting the multiple goals of the state and really delivering for New Yorkers and New York State's environment. And on behalf of the Department of Environmental Conservation, we're really pleased to have supported in its development and remain committed to continuing to see those emissions reductions and advancing smart programs as we continue to do on behalf of the state of New York. So we appreciate Governor Hochul's leadership. We deeply appreciate the leadership that NYSERDA has shown throughout this process. Thank you so much to Carl, to John, to Chair Harris, and to many others that have advanced this today. And we look forward to continuing to lead the nation in addressing climate and continuing to move forward in meeting our energy needs as a state. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you. We're joined virtually by Chancellor King. If we're able to turn to him, I know he had wanted to provide some remarks. Chancellor?
Thanks so much, Chair Harris, and sorry I couldn't be there in person due to our SUNY Board of Trustees meeting today. I want to express appreciation to Governor Hochul for her leadership, to you, Chair Harris, for your leadership, to my colleagues on the planning board, to the excellent NYSERDA staff, and all who've contributed to this plan to transform energy use and creation in our state. The challenges posed by climate change and the scale of response to meet our future energy demands give us not only an opportunity to do what's right, but an urgency to do what's needed. We need a bold plan that expands our use of renewable energy sources, reduces greenhouse gas emissions, and makes sure the cost of energy is sustainable for our families and institutions. This plan does this and fits squarely into SUNY's climate and sustainability goals. As the largest comprehensive system of public higher education in the nation, with 64 campuses across New York State, we bear both responsibility to help New York achieve its climate and clean energy goals and the capacity to help it do so. We operate 40% of New York State-owned building stock and spend more than $200 million each year on energy. Our research portfolio is on the cutting edge of climate science and next-generation energy innovation, including battery innovation, energy storage, and the development of grid modernization technology. From our research centers to our comprehensive colleges, and from our tech colleges to our community colleges, we're preparing New York's clean energy workforce through excellent and affordable degrees and certificates. We're confident that Governor Hochul's ongoing geothermal and thermal energy network investments in SUNY can become proof of concept for our cities and communities, and I believe the plan put forward today will help us get there. So know that SUNY is ready and eager to help advance this plan and work alongside all our partners toward New York's clean energy future. Thanks for the opportunity to share a few words.
Thank you, Chancellor. I'm glad you were able to join, and thank you for participating so fully in this process. I'll next turn to my left to Chair Christian for some remarks.
Thank you, Chair Harris. And thanks to all my fellow board members and again to the 100+ people involved in developing this process that are state employees. But I also want to extend thanks to the various stakeholders and individuals who commented throughout. Without your input and feedback, the plan would not be where it is today. And over the last year, as we've convened month to month to examine the complexity of New York's energy system, it's clear to me that the efforts underway take into consideration a variety of important factors that are important to its continuous operation. This is an energy system that touches every facet of society, with the goal of being available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, and to do so often under the worst possible conditions without interruption. And as we work towards the CLCPA goal of transitioning to a cleaner energy system, keeping in mind the long-standing reliability requirement is essential to understanding the complexity of the task ahead of us. To echo Chancellor King, not only must we do what's right, we must do what's needed. And the task of managing our energy systems and plans to transition to clean energy will be continuous, long-lived efforts with opportunities to do what's right and what's needed at every turn. We need to embrace the word transition at its core. And the meaning of transition, a managed period of change in which an existing system continues to function while being deliberately transformed into a new one is something we should keep in mind as we move forward. The lights must stay on, as the governor says. The economy must keep moving. And our families, businesses, hospitals, and communities that depend on it have to be certain that they can have a reliable, affordable system at their disposal when it's needed. Unlike a home renovation, where disruptions and delays can be both uncomfortable and unpredictable, disruptions to our energy systems can mean the difference between life and death. That reality and an understanding of the limitations and constraints that we are operating under today permeates the state energy plan before us. This plan reflects what I consider to be decades of planning and progress that have defined the state's clean energy initiatives. It reflects a balanced, thoughtful, and strategic approach to meet today's needs while deliberately preparing for a future that we are building towards. And it captures the concerns that much of our infrastructure is aging, an issue that grows more acute each day as we continue to feel the impacts of climate change with increasing frequency and intensity. It recognizes that the transition adds additional complexity to what is already a complex process, a process made even more complex by a shifting federal policy landscape and new practices that have created greater risk and uncertainty for long-term investments. Couple this with what is now a period of unprecedented load growth, and it can appear that there is no end in sight to the myriad of material challenges that directly affect the safety, reliability, and affordability of our energy system. And given the concerns regarding age, the impacts of climate change, load growth, and federal uncertainty, it is in my opinion, and an opinion echoed in the plan, that an all of the above energy approach isn't simply a choice, it's our reality. New York recognizes the need for investments in infrastructure to keep the system stable during this transition, and we must do so affordably. Affordability runs through every part of this plan. New Yorkers must be able to afford their energy today and in the future. And a transition that introduces unnecessary volatility may not be a successful one. Such volatility increases risks, which ultimately increases costs to consumers. So as such, I see affordability as not in conflict with our energy transition, but integral to it. And if we were to lose sight, we may lose the public's trust. And without the public trust, our transition may not endure. So I look to this plan as a guidepost for the future and look forward to executing various aspects of it through the Public Service Commission and the Department of Public Service. And again, echo my thanks and appreciation for all involved in its development today. Thank you.
Thank you. Next to Secretary of State Walter Mosley.
Thank you, Chair Harris, and good morning, and thank you to everyone who took time to engage in the state energy planning process. This was a tremendous and thoughtful undertaking, and the level of engagement throughout the development of this plan speaks volumes about how much our communities care about New York's energy choices and the course we are charting together. I'm proud to serve as Secretary of State under the leadership of Governor Kathy Hochul. This comprehensive and pragmatic plan will serve as a blueprint for effective energy policy that addresses New York's economic, social, and environmental needs. And the Department of State is proud to have provided its expertise on several critical areas that impact energy use and planning, including, and not limited to, land use and community infrastructure, clean energy, affordability, and interagency collaboration. As a state, we heard a wide range of views during this public comment period, which helped to shape a stronger plan. Many emphasized the plan's focus on innovation, infrastructure reliance, and aligning clean energy goals with economic development. They recognize that New York is leading by pairing decarbonization with community-centered programs like housing, job creation, affordability, downtown revitalization, and ensuring equitable benefits. Others are challenging us to go further, pushing for continued progress on our climate goals, to do more to alleviate the burdens of rising utility bills, and for greater coordination with those impacted by energy decisions. I stress these are not competing priorities. They are the balance we must achieve in a pragmatic approach to clean energy that achieves the foundational goals of reliability, affordability, and equity. So again, I want to thank Governor Hochul and Chair Harris for giving New Yorkers an important voice at the table during this critical process. In this complex and ever-changing world of energy policy, this plan offers a clear path towards a more reliant, more resilient, more reliable, and equitable energy future. As the state's planning agency, the Department of State will continue to work across agencies and will work with every region to make sure that's exactly the future we're planning. So in closing, I would be remiss if I did not thank and acknowledge the efforts of my Deputy Secretary, Keisha Santiago, from our Office of Planning, Development, and Community Infrastructure, as well as Laura McLean, who led our energy briefing group for the Department of State on behalf of the State Planning Board. I thank the chair for this opportunity, and I yield back.
Thank you, Secretary. Next to Commissioner Dominguez.
Good morning. First and foremost, I want to thank Chair Harris for her leadership. It really has been an incredible effort in a really condensed period of time. And to the team at NYSERDA, thank you very much for your concentration, your professionalism, your expertise that you've lent across the board. That is reflected in the, what did you say, Carl? 100+ people from state agencies that have lent their expertise. I appreciate the team from DOT that has participated as well. And I really want to thank Governor Hochul, because it's her vision that we're executing on to make sure that indeed New York has, it's her leadership directing us to really make sure that we've got a clean, sustainable, reliable, affordable energy future. And very much appreciate being a part of this process. A lot of hard work has gone into developing and finalizing this energy plan. All the staff from the various agencies have clearly devoted an enormous amount of time addressing the comments that have come in. Really appreciate the engagement from the public writ large and a number of the key stakeholders. It has helped us achieve an ambitious statewide energy goals, helping us develop them through this statewide plan. The strategies and recommendations presented in the state energy plan are going to help us transform our transportation sector into one that is cleaner and affordable and reliable, and one that I think will actually have a positive and healthy impact on our communities writ large. Investing in a variety of different transportation options is truly necessary to reduce emissions within the sector, but also to enhance community quality of life, which is so terribly important, and promote affordability and truly meet the mobility needs of New Yorkers. Specific energy plan recommendations included in this plan are the expansion of public transit offerings statewide and the mobilization and the modernization of transit fleets to improve not just convenience, but also efficiency and sustainability. Transitioning to zero-emission transit vehicles and supporting shared mobility services such as microtransit and bike shares that provide affordable transportation options to communities with limited or fixed route transit. We're also looking at enabling more walking and biking opportunities by enhancing active transportation infrastructure throughout the state. New York State DOT is currently making progress on a number of these strategies through our new initiatives and policy updates, and the department has been leading the development of an updated statewide transportation master plan, which will dovetail very nicely with the state energy plan and looks really to the out years. The statewide master plan looks to 2050 to establish a long-range vision for community-centered transportation that focuses on people, not just cars, but really moving people in the way that they need to be moved. The master plan will be finalized soon, and its goals and strategies will align with the statewide energy plan. Other efforts that NYSDOT is also pursuing include zero emissions transit transition funding, otherwise known as ZET. It's a comprehensive competitive grant that's intended to really assist non-MTA transit providers so that they can acquire zero emission transit vehicles and associated charging, fueling infrastructure that's needed to make sure that we can make this clean transition. In addition, the new innovative transit mobility pilot that Governor Hochul put forward in her State of the State is designed to assist riders who face barriers to traditional public transit. This program funds microtransit pilot projects for each of the 7 largest non-MTA systems across New York, and the program is providing information on how we can effectively expand this type of service to different contexts in different communities across the state. In addition, the statewide mobility services program works with communities and employers directly to address their mobility concerns by offering technical assistance for programs such as bike share programs, carpooling interfaces, and other custom solutions. New York State DOT has recently started discussing potential partnership opportunities with NYSERDA and SUNY to build off of our successes for this mobility services program, and we're really excited about it. NYSDOT is also developing an active transportation strategic plan to really improve opportunities for walking, bicycling, micromobility, and wheelchair use across New York State DOT system. This plan is going to provide guidance for our agency when it comes to determining how those active transportation investments and improvements can be made. And we're also working with our partners at NYSERDA, NYPA, DPS to expand access to electric vehicle charging stations and promote zero-emission vehicle statewide use. Beyond just the programs that I've highlighted here, implementing the transportation-related energy plan recommendations is going to require working with municipal partners throughout the state by encouraging sustainable, accessible, and affordable transportation considerations in community planning activities. Collaboration is the key to transforming our transportation sector to meet our energy goals and to serve the transportation needs of all communities across New York. NYSDOT stands ready to work with our partners to truly carry out this goal and the vision that Governor Hochul has laid out. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner. Next, I'll turn to Commissioner McDonald.
Yes, thank you, Chair Harris, and thank you, board members. And I just want to thank the environmental health team at the New York State Department of Health for their contribution to this. And I thank Governor Hochul for making this a priority. I do want to thank the public for all the comments that were received as well. You know, obviously there's a public health benefit to really where we're headed and what we're doing here. And I think back to June of 2023 when New York State for a time had some of the worst air quality in the world that day. A lot of that had to do with Canada and the wildfires. But as I look to our future, air quality becomes one of the things we more and more need to be concerned about. One of the things I really see with this comprehensive approach is a real intentional effort to reduce emissions, not just from transportation, from buildings, but just to clean up the air. When we improve the air in New York State, there's a health benefit to everyone. And you know, it's important that we think about just improving the health care for everyone, but the health benefit goes beyond everyone. We see a significant health benefit in some of the disadvantaged communities of New York State, whether it's decreased emergency department visits for people who have asthma and other respiratory diseases, cardiovascular health, we'll see improvements. We anticipate seeing improvements, whether it be less premature deaths. There's really a lot to be gained by having good air quality for everyone. And when I just think about the world we live in, where we literally are plugged in all the time, every day, we just cannot live without energy. You know, I'm getting older, but as I think about life when I was much younger, we were constantly plugged into something. You know, it's clear we need sustainable, affordable energy for our future. And we just need to do it in a way where we can have perpetual health benefits. And one of the things about this plan is it does recognize an all approach needed for energy, but quite frankly, the public health benefits are really quite refreshing and I think are going to help us for years to come. So I look forward to leading the Department of Health and actually helping to carry out the goals of the plan so we all achieve the health outcomes that we quite frankly deserve. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Over to my left, Commissioner Ball.
Good morning, and thanks for this opportunity, Chair Harris. It's very humbling to be a part of this conversation with so many good thinkers at the table. And I would just say agriculture has long been at the table as an important component of the state's energy conservation efforts and clean energy agenda. The New York State Energy Plan supports a smart on-farm upgrade that will allow farmers to not only reduce energy use, but also contribute to energy production. while at the same time reducing emissions, enhancing soil health and water quality, following farmers' ongoing commitment to environmental stewardship. The plan is timely and practical in its recommendations as we work with farmers to adopt regional strategic uses of on-farm based energy such as renewable natural gas and biofuels for hard-to-electrify processes, such as those that we find in agriculture, as well as other vital economic industries in New York State. I too want to thank the State Energy Planning Board and all the staff across so many agencies for drafting a comprehensive blueprint to guide New York State and the agricultural industry in its energy goals today and for the future. In this process, I feel as though I watched a giant jigsaw puzzle being put together. This plan helps agriculture to build on a track record of reducing greenhouse gas emissions through climate smart and resilient farming practices. This plan comes at a very pivotal time when momentum is building across our farm and our conservation district community for the implementation of emission reducing, carbon sequestration increasing, and resiliency building farm practices. In thus, the last round of the state's climate resilient farming program, over $33 million was awarded for farm projects that we estimate will reduce 120,000 metric tons of carbon dioxide equivalents across all those participating farms. These reductions equate to removing nearly 28,000 cars off the road for a year, or over 305 million miles driven by the average gasoline-powered passenger vehicle. The recommendations of the State Energy Plan will help to expand farmers' efforts to reduce even more greenhouse gas emissions by supporting on-farm energy production and efficiency projects. So for these reasons, I affirm support for this plan and vote yes on its passage and release to help guide the state's energy policies and support our agricultural community in their efforts to be a part of the solution. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Next, Assemblymember Barrett.
Thank you. I'd like to begin by thanking Assembly Speaker Carl Heastie for appointing me to serve on this State Energy Planning Board, NYSERDA President Doreen Harris for her leadership, and the hardworking staff, as we've heard a lot of people reference from both NYSERDA and my own personal staff, and of course, all of the people from the state agencies for their rigorous research and presentations over the past 15 months. As the only elected official on the State Planning Board, I've seen my role on the board as representing the voice of the consumer, upstate and downstate, rural and urban. And as such, I've remained focused throughout on affordability, reliability, and transparency for ratepayers. There is no denying that energy costs are a big part of the affordability crisis we are currently experiencing across our diverse state. Even in the year and a half that we've gone through the planning process, energy prices have soared, affecting everyone, but most acutely low-income New Yorkers who have struggled to make ends meet, even with access to affordability programs. As well, the next tranche of ratepayers, those who live on the tipping point and may be just one big expense, whether it's replacing a major appliance, a healthcare crisis, or perhaps a large repair bill in their car, keeps them from being able to pay their bills. These folks generally do not qualify for any of the existing energy affordability programs that we have. As we see one request after the other for double-digit rate increases from utilities, it's abundantly clear that our current regulatory framework for utilities is not working. It's time to explore alternatives to the cost of service utility system, which was designed nearly a century ago, and which encourages building more infrastructure and then charging that back to ratepayers. Other approaches, like performance-based regulations, seem more in sync with the state's decarbonization, resilience, and affordability goals, and compensate utilities based on their performance against predefined metrics rather than just on the costs. It's time for us to start talking about these alternatives. To further ensure that ratepayers aren't unfairly saddled with increased energy costs, it also seems time to create a new customer rate classification for large energy users like AI and data centers with big loads. And we have outlined that in some legislation that we are working on in the legislature. the AC/DC Act particularly. Importantly, the final energy plan recognizes the need to provide more robust support to help New Yorkers with our energy transition. These include expanded energy affordability programs like the GAP program, the Green Affordable Energy Pre-Electrification Program, financial incentives for decarbonization of buildings and vehicles, and additional funding to meet our constituents where they are, as we need them to help us work together to reach our climate goals. And speaking of climate goals, since the only climate goal that the state has actually successfully met ahead of schedule is distributed solar, we could build on that strength and expand the goal for distributed solar to 20 gigawatts by 2035 and address interconnection issues to get these projects online more quickly. Further, I would also urge the state to build off the success of the Climate Resilient Farming Program, as the commissioner recently mentioned, by creating a carbon farming tax credit, incentivizing farmers to adopt programs that will both reduce emissions and store more carbon in the earth. As a longtime supporter of a clean fuel standard, I appreciate the final plan's recognition of the need for market-based mechanisms and incentives to catalyze the production and use of low-carbon alternative fuels. That's a quote from the plan. The creation of a clean fuel standard, as well as a sustainable aviation fuel tax credit, would decarbonize our transportation sector virtually overnight, as the Dr. McDonald referred to, and clean up disadvantaged communities overnight rather than years down the road when we are finally electrified. Energy storage will be critical in maintaining reliability as we shift to more intermittent generation sources like wind and solar. I am particularly interested in the use of new innovative technologies that allow for long duration storage while decreasing fire risks, and I appreciate the inclusion of these resources in the final plan. Finally, we must continue to partner with labor to develop, train, and support the workforce for this plan, ensuring the clean energy jobs created are high-quality jobs, leading to good-paying careers, and that we prioritize a just transition to ensure that no one is left behind. After nearly 15 months spent developing this energy plan, the next step is beginning to adopt its recommendations and then educating the public, something that we can always do a better job at. I stand ready to work with my partners throughout the state to implement a plan that ensures reliability, affordability, and safety for all New Yorkers as we continue with our clean energy transition. Thank you.
Thank you, Assemblymember. Next, Commissioner Reardon. Thank you.
Good morning. I want to begin by, as many have said, congratulations to the governor for her amazing leadership on this issue. It is not an easy topic, as we all know, and she has been steadfast in her leadership. And this also extends to Chair Harris, whose amazing ability to lead us through some very difficult conversations, both in our room and publicly. I'm very impressed with your ability to do all of that with a great sense of confidence and collegiality. So thank you so much for that. And to all of the state workers, the agencies, the experts, everybody who contributed. It is such a complex problem, and you were able to explain it to us in words that we could understand. So thank you very much for that. I am so pleased to be here today to vote on this innovative and ambitious state energy plan. This is a plan that moves New York towards an environmentally responsible future, and that's a plan that we all need and want. This plan incorporated, as I said, expert input, public hearings, feedback, literally from thousands of New Yorkers, and it ensured every New Yorker had a voice in the state's energy plan, and that is an amazing accomplishment. Thank you to all of the New Yorkers who contributed to this, who came to hearings, who sent us written comments, because that is invaluable. That's the way our government works. This is a wonderful plan that DOL loves to stand behind because it includes strong protections for workers in energy jobs, very critical jobs, a commitment to worker safety across all industries. It includes initiatives to ensure that no New Yorker is left behind. Everybody needs to be successful in this plan. And of course, very valuable assistance for workers in traditional industries, I call them the fossil industries, as well as disadvantaged communities where they can acquire new skills and find employment in the green sector. Reliability is absolutely essential to this plan because reliability is essential to our economy. And that is the foundational reason we came together to look at this plan. It is not an either or approach. We are able to explore all energy generation, understanding that this is a long-term plan that has a significant focus on clean energy because that's where we need to get to. This is a plan that identifies the need to build a skilled workforce. The Department of Labor is ready to partner on workforce development as always. We understand that we are creating real opportunities for well-paying careers in the clean energy sector. We are working very closely with our partners in NYSERDA, SUNY, CUNY, and our labor partners to make sure that we have a steady pipeline of well-trained workers to step into this new frontier. And of course, we have targeted funding for energy workforce development and very valuable pre-apprenticeships to get young people ready to move into these careers. And speaking of getting people ready, of course, registered apprenticeships are absolutely key here. This is a proven way to earn and learn and get people ready for this sector. We provide skills, experience, and very importantly, a paycheck. So you don't have to take time off from your job in order to learn how to do the new job. Advanced nuclear energy is critical for meeting the demand that we're seeing. And advanced nuclear has transferable skills from traditional energy jobs that can be used in other energy job sectors. That's the thing about the training for the energy sector. It's not just a tiny slice of training. With registered apprenticeships, you're trained in an entire trade, and those skills are transferable as the energy sector changes. The department is ready to support job training for zero-emission nuclear power plant upstate, and I will note new nuclear plants means new skills, means new training programs, and new entry points for those workers. This is the plan that shows New York's commitment to a just energy transition. It includes all communities, it prepares New Yorkers for new job opportunities, and of course, it reinforces Governor Hochul's priority of access for all, especially for disadvantaged communities. The Department of Labor is committed to ensuring New Yorkers are able to tap into the training they need to thrive in the clean energy fields while they remain protected on the job. And I am so proud to be here today to vote for this plan.
Thank you so much, Commissioner. Next, I'll turn to President and CEO Rich Dewey of the New York ISO.
Thank you, Chair Harris. Thank you for your leadership through this process. As the entity that's responsible for maintaining the reliability of the electric system for New York, I'm really pleased to see that this plan is grounded really in the fundamental understanding that electric reliability is crucial to the health, safety, and economy of New York. That's just so completely vital from a starting point. And continuing to maintain that priority as New York moves towards its clean energy goals, I think is going to be crucial to maintaining, as the chairman of the Public Service Commission, Chair Christian, said, maintaining the public trust that we're responsibly maintaining these systems. Any plan to be really credible with the public can't just be based in policies. It really is crucial to have that thorough and robust analytical basis for it and the empirical data that sits behind it. And I think this plan really accomplishes that. Everything we know about the future is uncertain, and the multi-scenario approach of thinking about what the possible pathways are as we move towards a clean energy future while we're maintaining reliability and affordability of the system really just enhances the credibility of the plan. So Carl and the team across multiple agencies, including NYSERDA and others, really should be commended for the thoroughness of this plan. It is highly credible. And that's just so crucial to give us the confidence that as we move forward, we've got an actionable plan. It's also, I think, really takes a realistic and responsible look at the technologies that are developing and maturing that are going to be so essential to achieve the long range and final sort of state of the power system that we envision, that the climate legislation envisions. And that's why I think the biennial updates that we've packed into the plan are going to be so important, that as these technologies mature at different rates, to have the willingness to adjust the mileposts on the plan to make sure that we can continue to maintain reliability and continue to do it in an affordable way. So I'm very impressed with the work done by the team. I think this is a good plan. I support the plan, and I congratulate the team, the technical team that put it together. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Our two delegates, I'd like to start with Executive Deputy Commissioner Terrence O'Leary.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair Harris. At the risk of being redundant, I would like to thank the staff, you and your staff, for this planning process. At the division, planning is central to what we do. Planning across many state agencies and the public can be a very time-intensive process, and incorporating everybody's thoughts as well as the leader's intent is not always easy. I think this plan is a fantastic example of a thoughtful process that took into account all concerns and opinions. Energy is central to emergency preparedness, and I would like to thank our staff that worked with Carl and others to make sure that our Office of Emergency Management, as well as our Office of Counterterrorism, was involved in the planning process. Any emergency management response depends upon a reliable and resilient energy system. When I look around the table, I see faces that we normally don't see on blue sky days. It's normally when the worst is impacting New York, whether it is a extreme weather event, which are becoming more and more common, or a threat that is, faces our energy system. So I would like to thank all the outreach from NYSERDA, including the presentation that John did last week to the Disaster Preparedness Commission, which elicited a question and comment from the Adjutant General, who is usually, outside of the Pledge of Allegiance, pretty stoic at those meetings. So it was a very impactful and timely presentation. When we respond to emergencies, energy is obviously at the center of all of it. Making sure that everyone has access to energy is important. It cuts down the response times, it increases the speed of recovery, and it makes sure that we can create an environment where all New Yorkers are living in a safe and resilient environment, environment. Governor Hochul has been very clear that emergency management is a priority of hers, and making sure that energy is central to that has been key so far. I'd like to thank Chair Harris and this plan for the detail it takes in the emergency preparedness and security section. I think with the review process going forward on the biennial schedule, it puts us in a good place to ensure that we have resilient and reliable energy with many different sources so that New York can face any threat that may come our way. With that, on behalf of Commissioner Bray, I would say the division wholeheartedly supports this plan and looks forward to voting in favor of it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next, I'd like to hear from Empire State Development Senior Director Dave Whipple.
Thank you, Chair Harris. I'm delivering these remarks on behalf of Empire State Development Commissioner Hope Knight. The State Energy Plan comes at a crucial time. New York is seeing substantial opportunities to reshore industries critical to the way that we live our lives. From food we put on the table to devices we use to communicate and transport ourselves, to equipment we use to generate power. New York is a hub for producing the things that the items that the world needs. Manufacturing these products requires an ever-increasing amount of energy. New York's economy depends on an abundant supply of reliable and affordable energy. Anticipating the increased capacity needs of industry is a driving force in this plan. Continued engagement with industry will help us better understand and respond to these needs as we move forward. The plan's emphasis on affordability and the focus on reducing system costs will support our existing businesses while putting us in a position to attract more. The plan reflects a thorough process carried out by the board and agency staff and advances economic development through thoughtful goals set for industry, innovation, and workforce development. It provides New York with a path to realize the benefit of thousands of manufacturing jobs and tens of thousands of construction jobs. Empire State Development looks forward to continued partnership with stakeholders on shaping New York's energy and economic future. Again, on behalf of Commissioner Hope Knight, thank you.
Thank you. I'll pause for a brief moment. I know we were working to connect Senate appointee Mr. Suggs for virtual participation due to extraordinary circumstances. Have we been successful in doing so? We will hold for just 1 minute while we determine if this is possible. Thank you. Thank you all for your patience. It does look as if connecting Mr. Suggs will be impossible at the moment. So with that, I will just note a couple of observations that he sent. First of all, I would like to thank Mr. Suggs for his participation in the board. As I had just referenced, he was not able to make it to today's meeting due to travel delays en route to Albany. He did send me his comments that he had planned to share during this meeting, which I will read now. He wrote, the New York State Energy Planning Board has worked very hard advocating for a reliable clean energy source in New York State and New York City areas, communicating with community leaders, energy companies, and other stakeholders along the way. The electric consumption in New York State is expected to rise through 2050 as buildings electrify their fossil fuel systems. And renewable energy sources in New York State are also expected to increase at high levels between now and 2035, helping to maintain a reliable source of power supply. This is critical to deliver this clean and reliable source of energy for our state. Understanding utility infrastructure is essential to achieving that outcome. Hopefully, more residential and commercial customers will take advantage of a renewable energy source, as well as utilizing systems to reduce power delivered across our aging grid. All of this leads us to workforce development, certainly necessary to create a clean energy workforce pipeline over the next 15 years and beyond. We have more work to do. Thank you, William Suggs. So with that, I'll just confirm from the team, Mr. Suggs is unable to join for the vote. Okay. Please do advise Vanessa when we get to that point. But I'll move on. Before we proceed to the vote, do the members of the board have any final comments or edits to the draft or to the plan that was shared with you in preparation for this meeting? Hearing none, I will now request a motion and a second on Resolution 16 to adopt the 2025 State Energy Plan.
Move to approve.
A second?
Second.
Madam Secretary, to ensure a clear record, would you please call the roll on this vote? You're not. Chair Harris.
I suggest we all turn ours on now. Chair Harris.
Aye.
Commissioner Ball.
Aye.
Assemblymember Barrett.
Aye.
Chair Christian.
Aye.
Commissioner Dominguez.
Aye.
Commissioner Lefton.
Aye.
Commissioner McDonald.
Aye.
Secretary Mosley.
Aye.
Mr. O'Leary.
Aye.
Commissioner Reardon.
Aye.
Mr. Whipple.
Aye.
Mr. White.
Aye.
Motion's approved.
Mr. William Suggs.
Mr. Suggs. Would you
Yes,
like to
Madam
cast your
Chair.
vote? Mr.
Yes,
Suggs, this
ma'am.
is Sarah Simpson, Secretary to the Board. Would you like to cast your vote on the plan?
Yes. Aye.
Thank you. The motion is approved unanimously.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. The motion is carried and the State Energy Plan has been adopted by the board. Thank you and congratulations. I will now ask if the members have any other business to bring before the board. Hearing none, I'll move to our final slides. A designed version of the plan will be posted on the State Energy Plan website very shortly. Immediately following this meeting, you will be able to access the final text of the plan, the accompanying fact sheets, and the full set of public comments on our State Energy Planning Board website. To receive updates on the State Energy Plan and content related to the biennial update, please sign up for email updates on our website. Before adjourning today's meeting, I would like to echo the thanks expressed by my fellow board members. First, I'd like to thank Governor Hochul. Certainly under the governor's leadership, New York has made meaningful progress on building a clean energy economy. And this plan lays out the roadmap to carry momentum of this progress and to further priorities for an affordable and reliable clean energy transition. And I, too, am very grateful to the board members and their delegates for their active participation in this process to deliver a state energy plan for New York. I would also like to share a special thanks to Commissioner Jackie Bray for her tenure on this board and her service at DISHES. The members of this board offer her a warm congratulations and wish her luck in her new role as Director of State Operations at the state's Executive Chamber. And on behalf of the board, I would like to reinforce our sincere thanks to the more than 100 agency staff who worked diligently to draft the plan, coordinate public comment, plan public hearings and board meetings, conduct outreach across the state, and to ensure the plan is based on the most up-to-date data and analysis. This has been an extraordinary effort, and you should each feel great pride in your contributions. I personally applaud you for your professionalism, collegiality, and expertise that you each brought to this energy plan. Shall we thank them, members? And importantly, I would like to again thank the members of the public who contributed to this plan, whether through advocacy work, public comments, or by the work you do every day to keep our state's energy system running. This plan is informed by and reflects your contributions. And so with that, the meeting of the State Energy Planning Board is hereby adjourned. Thank you all.